Can we build a functioning, massive 12-avenue roundabout? Is Cities Skylines 2 up to the task? Let's find out. We will not recreate Paris, but this is Parisian inspired. Our goal is to do justice to the massive Paris roundabout called L'Étoile. In real life, this roundabout is home to the Arc de Triomphe, one of Paris's most famous landmarks. We will do our best to create this complicated road network using the French asset pack in this multipart series. My name is College Builder, and this is episode 1 of my French build, Ile du Carrefour. This might not work, but please join me as we give it a try. For this challenge, we will use Mr. Miyagi's Nantes map, the official map for the French region pack. This works as an excellent location for our Parisian-inspired build because, like Paris, it has large river islands. I named the city Ile du Carrefour, which translates as Crossroads Island. The name references the large island on the map. We will start, however, not on the island, but instead on the right bank, if we want to call it that. By the way, if you enjoy complicated European road networks, please like this video. If you prefer standard North American grids, please also like it and let me know which you prefer in the comments. Using Google Earth, I measured the dimensions for the Champs-Élysées and L'Étoile roundabout. We will carefully measure the outermost circle, which will be a minor road for vehicles. This has a diameter of about 360 meters. The tricky part was measuring the next two circles. The middle circle is a pedestrian road, which allows hordes of tourists to take in spectacular views of the Arc de Triomphe. This middle circle starts about 56 meters from the outer circle. The innermost circle is another 56 meters from the middle circle and is a large multi-laned roundabout. For this, we will use the 7-lane, one-way road that comes with the base game. Our measurements are close, but we will not be 100% accurate to the real-life version. Let's then take the Road Builder mod and remove the lane markings on the inner circle. Believe it or not, L'Étoile does not have clearly defined lines as you might expect. We will also remove parking so that no cars park on the roundabout. The next challenge is to create the 12 crossroads that intersect the circles. We will measure 108 meters out using temporary guide roads. We will connect the guide roads all the way across and then delete the guides and the middle. We can continue this process until 12 roads enter and leave the circle. With so many intersecting roads, this is genuinely a grand intersection. I only wish we had an Arc de Triomphe to place in the middle. At this point, you can begin to see why it is called L'Étoile, which means the star. To make this a proper roundabout, we will remove the traffic lights created by the intersections. We will also remove the crosswalks by right-clicking on each one using the crosswalk tool. At this stage, we have finished the basic layout, with the main shopping boulevard, the Champs-Élysées, as the central axis. We will use a variety of avenues and boulevards, including several custom roads for the 12 radiating spokes. The Champs-Élysées is very wide, so we want to capture that feeling. Many other avenues have center lanes on the inside and parking lanes on the outside, divided by medians with grass and trees. In some cases, the parking lane will be on the inside, and in others it will be on the outside. So let's create versions of both. I also want to replicate a boulevard that looks like a park. This will have a central avenue and smaller one-way roads on the outer edge. We will use the traffic mod tool to ensure our lanes go where we want them to go. I love the variety of avenues we can create here, giving different parts a unique look and feel. In this series, we will create 5 distinct neighborhoods, or Arrondissement, around the central roundabout. Each neighborhood will have some of its own characteristics, and the avenues are the start. Our main challenge with the center will be the traffic. Each of these avenues comes into the middle, which in theory will create a massive congestion spot. We need to pay careful attention to the center for this to function. As we watch the traffic, we will need to be prepared to make some adjustments to the avenues and to the roundabout itself. We should add a bit of charm to the center. Using the surface tool, let's place a cobblestone surface around it. This will give our roundabout a historic look and feel. We just need to align the edges with the sidewalks to look natural. Now, when looking at aerial views of the Arc de Triomphe, you will see what looks like a 12-pointed red star design right on the road. I don't know what gives it that look, whether it's paint or a different type of road surface. If you know, please let me know in the comments. We will recreate this using a red surface. Again, we are not copying Paris exactly, but just doing something that takes its inspiration from the city. I've been to Paris 5 or 6 times, including twice in the past year, but I failed to examine this part of the road closely. Of course, all of this is too bright. The roundabout needs to have a historic look. So here, we will use the basic black surface with 50% transparency to cover over the cobblestone and the red markings. This will make everything, both the red and the cobblestone, a bit darker, giving it an aged look. Lastly, we want to fill in the park space between the inner road and the pedestrian road. To do this, we will use one of the sand textures. This will create the perfect dirt background for our park. With our infrastructure in place, let's start using the assets from the French region pack. To create the perfect look, we will place each of these by hand, one at a time, rather than zoning. One challenge with these first buildings is that the curves of the circles don't work as nicely as straight edges. The best trick I have found is to turn off snapping and wiggle them into place. When they overlap slightly, you can then use the Move It mod to adjust them until they fill the curved space. Around the circle, I primarily used mixed-use zones, with commercial zones on the bottom floor and residential zones on top. However, in a few places, I used the medium-density residential or French office zones to change the appearance of our roundabout. The one challenge we will continue to face is that with snapping off, the buildings can be placed too far back, cutting off road access. Using the Move It mod, we can fix this issue by shifting buildings closer to the road. You may notice that we have no office demand, but I want to get these buildings in place anyway. The French high school, elementary school, and college are all terrific additions. We have so few residents right now that it is essential for us to provide some critical services, which will help protect and educate our citizens and ensure that we can increase our overall demand. Working the rest of the way around, the roundabout is filling in very nicely. These French assets look gorgeous and give this massive intersection some grandeur. Of course, while a few cars are starting to pop up, we are nowhere close to having enough citizens to produce any real traffic. This is all about to change as we continue to build. As we start to approach our first 1,000 citizens, let's add a few parks to the central avenue, providing leisure to our citizens and increasing the number of pedestrians we have walking about. We can then put on the finishing touches. Our own version of the star is looking incredible, but we have so much more to do to really put this intersection to the test and see if it will function in the game. Let's do a little bit of detailing, extending the surfaces that come with the buildings to cover up the open grass. The surfaces make this look more like a developed urban area. Of course, the center is also a park. Let's add some large oak trees to the dirt area, filling in all the way around the circle. We should then determine if our roundabout intersections can handle the traffic. We will use the traffic mod to make some slight adjustments, removing U-turns and making sure that each lane has a single purpose. This will not be the last time we need to adjust these intersections, but it is at least a start. Finally, we will add some stained decals around the edges. That will complete the aging process and ensure that this feels like a historic place. We will now get started on the first neighborhood, what we will call the first Arrondissement. Paris is divided into 20 administrative districts called Arrondissement. Again, although we are not trying to recreate Paris, I like the idea of assigning our neighborhoods a number and following a similar pattern as we progress through each episode. We will continue using the Find It mod to filter for the French asset packs as we place the buildings. The outer roads around the neighborhood are either avenues or regular streets. We will use more alleys and occasionally some regular roads in the middle. This approach creates the feeling of boundaries, using our infrastructure as the demarcation. If you don't need to drive into the neighborhood, you can stick to the outer road to circumvent it, or be forced to stay on one of the 12 radial crossroads that lead into the central roundabout. Sometimes we will place small dead ends in the middle of an area using a small roundabout at the end of a cul-de-sac. The other aspect of our pattern here is zoning. Since the inner alleys are tiny roads, we will place almost entirely medium residential zones. We will also place primarily mixed-use and office zones for the avenues around the edge. This will keep truck traffic and noisier commercial activity towards the edges of the Arrondissement and minimize noise pollution inside. We continue to find our various angles tricky to fill in. Whether the angle near an intersection is wide or narrow, obtuse or acute, the buildings don't always cooperate. The only corner buildings in the game are 90 degrees, so we need to be creative when plopping buildings down. Eventually, we will get them to work. We've completed one part of our arrondissement and brought in nearly 5,000 citizens. It is time we expand out the neighborhood that we build in this first episode. We will continue using alleys on the inside, hopefully discouraging drivers from taking shortcuts through the middle. We also want to fix some of these intersections using the Move It mod to adjust the nodes. I think we can also place our first high-density residential. The French region's low-rent housing is beautiful and fits nicely with the surrounding assets. They fit well, partly because they are not tall compared to the medium-density residential. All of these inner alleys are strictly medium-density or low-rent residential. We will place the noisier mixed-use buildings on the edges of our avenues. The outer avenues on the edge are primarily collectors, so we want to keep the traffic on those roads. Right now, only one broad avenue going into our massive roundabout is an arterial that connects to our highways and the outside world. This is the avenue we have modeled off of the Champs-Élysées. This arterial will have the most traffic as it serves as our outside connection. We are using a few more orange-roofed buildings in this part of the neighborhood. I love the way they look and add a pop of color. Let's fill in some more of these tricky corners, having buildings overlap and stand at different angles to create the effect of a single building. It is not perfect, since sometimes the chimneys and roof lines stick through, but it is close enough for our purpose. What I love is seeing all of the pedestrians that are starting to fill the streets. Paris is such a wonderfully pedestrian-friendly city. Hopefully, our version Ile de Carrefour will also be. But you can see that traffic is really starting to increase on the main arterial. We cannot neglect that much longer. We will continue placing our residential on the alleys and the mixed-use zones on the wider streets and avenues. But notice that our medium-density demand is gone. This is highly problematic, as almost everything we are plopping right now is medium density. We also never developed any office demand. Part of this is probably due to education. We built the French college, high school, and elementary school, but we never built a university. But if we want to bring back demand, what we really need to think about is the happiness of our citizens. By looking at the data, you can see that our citizens are not very happy. Let's place a park in the middle of this neighborhood. We should also add telecom to provide internet. And of course, we have done nothing about mail. The problem is that the post office buildings do not fit the French theme. Let's hide a small post office under one of our French buildings. People are not very happy about the mail service, but this will start to change. We should place a university to increase the overall education. This will go at the other end of the Champs-Élysées, in a space I reserved for a park. But placing a university here works just fine. However, our traffic on our main arterial is out of control. It's time to build a second arterial so people can enter another way. This will give us 2 arterials into the center. These will be sufficient for now, but we should watch closely in the coming episodes. Let's also place the department store's signature building from the German asset pack. This brings a number of citywide boosts and increases well-being. It looks like we still lack demand for medium-density residential and office. We should expand educational opportunities by placing another elementary school. Lack of entertainment continues to rank among happiness factors. Let's add some additional leisure opportunities, placing a small playground near the center of the roundabout. I also like the Emerald signature building from the base game. With some recoloring, it blends into the neighborhood and brings additional city and area boosts. The happiness meter has improved, but let's add another small park at the end of a cul-de-sac. With the addition of another low-rent building, we seem to have wiped out all our high-density residential demand. We can place that other German asset pack signature building, continuing to boost our city. Our economy is based on commercial zones, but we have no industrial zones. I will spend some time off camera to add industry far away from our center. With that addition, you can see that our residential demand has returned. Perhaps that was all that was needed. And at last, office demand is growing. That is great because we have already placed lots of offices. As you can see, the first arrondissement is nearly complete, and we are approaching 10,000 residents. Keeping up with citizen satisfaction means paying attention to traffic. And remember, our goal is to see if we can build a genuinely functioning, massive roundabout. Looking at the center, we will upgrade a few smaller streets in the middle to 4-lane avenues. In doing so, we want to focus on lane management, avoiding unnecessary lane sharing and U-turns. But this traffic is a mess. What I love about this little experiment is watching all the cars loop around and figure out where to go. I find it very satisfying. In the outer of our 3 circles, our traffic lights are not working well. If we right-click, we can change things to split phasing using the Traffic Lights Enhancement mod. This will help provide better timing so that cars are not crossing in front of each other. We can upgrade some of these 2 lanes to 4 in order to help move cars through and provide more turning options. Let's add split phasing to another intersection on the outer circle. The roundabout seems to be working and is getting heavy use. Only occasionally do things seem to get backed up. With these minor adjustments, we are seeing improvements. We need to let it run for a bit and give the AI time to sort out where everyone is going. I think we should soon see the traffic settle down. We are now very close to that 10,000 population number, and demand for residential and commercial is very strong. Office demand is hanging on a bit. Traffic appears to be moving more or less, and the central roundabout is getting heavy use. We should now fill in some of the little corners and spaces that we have left empty. I find these corner spots the most challenging. We can place some of the 1-tile width buildings into some of the smaller nooks. In a few places, a couple of varying heights are helpful. 90-degree corner buildings work, but sometimes take a few extras squeezed together. There are so many cars. It looks like the roundabout needs some work. We can upgrade some of the 2-lane spots with a 3-lane asymmetrical road. This will give us a dedicated turning lane, which should help avoid long bottlenecks. With these additions, let's give the cars a moment to sort themselves out, and we can see if that did the trick. We can improve another one of our traffic lights with the Traffic Light Enhancement mod and create more dedicated turning lanes. We see our roundabout in a significant stress test as all these cars come in. But if this is what we see at 10,000 residents, what will we see at 50,000 or 100,000? I have an advantage because I have already recorded over 40 hours of footage and built out the next 4 arrondissements. I know how bad things will get and the lengths we must take to keep it all from crashing down. I have divided the footage to keep these episodes from being too long, and will share more in the coming months. But for now, let's finish off these open spots. We have an irregularly shaped triangle, which our buildings won't fit well. Let's provide space for all these incoming residents by keeping snapping off and moving the buildings around to create the triangle block. Filling it in requires lots of small adjustments with the Move It mod and finding just the right buildings. But with the right placements, this little spot looks lovely and helps make our first arrondissement complete. We've nearly reached 11,000 total residents, and I couldn't be happier. This little experiment is so much fun. Traffic is doing well enough, but I think we can test the roundabout so much more. Over the next few episodes, we will create new neighborhoods, build landmarks, and complete 4 more arrondissements, and bring Ile de Carrefour to a total of 100,000 citizens. Please join me for what is to come and see if we can pull it off. If you enjoy this series and welcome the challenge, please like this video, add a comment, and subscribe. That helps me know how I am doing. And please consider watching one of my other videos on my channel.